Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the last team that got eliminated in the second round of the playoffs. And after this, we only got four more teams to talk about in the Moving Forward series episode. I should be able to get this done by the end of this week. And then next week, we're going to start to do the season preview, starting with teams that involve in CONCACAF Champions Cup first. And then fast forward in terms of talk about all 30 teams before the season will begin. It's hard to believe, but we are now just a couple days away from 1 month away from the new MLS season. I mean, it's quite crazy to see how fast the off season has gone, and before you know it, the new season is going to begin, and that's kind of something that LAFC fans are also hoping will be even better heading into this season because there's no doubt that last season, as much as they did play well for most of the season, especially in the second half of the season, you just kind of in a sense that last season the thing that kind of let LAFC fans a little bit disappointing is the fact that they didn't win anything last year. And now heading into this year with the way that it seems like they're kind of running it back this year, and this is something we didn't see LAFC usually do, where, sometimes with LAFC they tend to like to change up the team, sometimes necessary, sometimes unnecessary, but still, despite that, they always tends to be a competitive team, and it feels like this is one of the rare times that they didn't really make too much changes in terms of the main core that they had. They're running it back. Obviously, they did add some depth in this team as well, but obviously, the big elephant in the room for LAFC heading into this season is that they have a new head coach. Marc Dos Santos is now taking charge of this team after Steve Cherundolo decided to step down and head back to Germany for after last year, and now there's a lot of question and a lot of. I would also say that there's a lot of LAFC fans that are very uncertain. The fact that whether or not if Mark Dos Santos, knowing his track record and especially what he did with the Vancouver Whitecaps, would be able to take a very talented team and just kind of almost replicate what Steve Toronto did of getting this team to be a competitive team and a contender every single year. But that being said, last season they did finish with a 17-9-8 record and finished with 60 points. They scored 65 goals last season while conceding 40 goals with a plus 25 goal differential. So, yeah, definitely very impressive and not a big surprise. This team has always been a team that is very good when it comes to goal scoring and also don't allow too much goals as well. And last season was kind of the same thing as well. I mean, the goal scoring really went up once some human went to this team, and that Denis Bouanga kind of had his usual takeoff point near the third of the season, where after a slow start to the season, he pretty much just completely took off and was gunning for the Golden Boot race as well. They finished third in the Western Conference, but unfortunately, they got eliminated by the Vancouver Whitecaps in the second round. And I did say that heading into the playoffs, this LAFC team is definitely not only going to be a contender, but the big question, of course, with LAFC is that if they do run into a really good team like the Vancouver Whitecaps, that's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to do. Especially, I feel like of all the teams that LAFC could face in the playoffs, Vancouver is probably the last team that I feel LAFC wants to face. Consider the Whitecaps have so much animosity against LAFC, and especially with the way that I know LAFC has kind of showed their dominance against Vancouver in big games before, but as we talk about in the Columbus moving forward series in Cincinnati as well, as the old saying goes, all narrative has to come to an end. All dominance eventually is going to sway the other way. And in a year where it feels like there's times where the team that seems like always dominant against the other team seems like that narrative has turned the underside. So I don't think there was a big surprise the fact that they unfortunately finally lost to Vancouver in the playoffs, and that the Vancouver Whitecaps, they were an absolute juggernaut. Though I will say that I will give LAFC credit the fact that they really pushed Vancouver pretty much the hardest out of any team on their way to MLS Cup. Like for the Whitecaps, when you look at the three teams that they face to make it to MLS Cup against Inter Miami, LAFC was the toughest one because they blew a 2-0 lead in that one against LAFC. LAFC showed a lot of fight and tenacity, and unfortunately they just came on the wrong end of the PK shootout. Top goal scorer of this team, you got Denis Bouanga with 24 goals. He was pretty close in terms of winning the Golden Boot again. And really kind of in some way came out of nowhere to really got into that race. I mean, he was really racking up a lot of goals in the second half of the season to a point where he eventually did pass Surge and almost catch Messi in terms of the top goal scoring chart. You got Sung, of course, with not 9 goals. It's hard to believe that Sung just arriving in this team back in July that he almost hit double digit mark. I have a feeling heading into next season he's probably going to be a guy that might not only reach double digit but maybe in the assist chart as well. He is definitely one of their main playmaker of this team, and it's also surprised the fact that he actually never ends up on the top assist leader, consider that is kind of also part of his game as well. But you also got Nathan Ordaz with 5 goals, Jeremy Abosi with 4 goals, and Olivier Giroud, who's no longer on this team with 3 goals to round up the top 5 goals scored for this team. Top assist leader, it's actually tied between Denis Bouanga and Mark Delgado with 9 assists, followed by Nathan Ordaz with 5 assists, David Martinez with 4 assists, and Sergi Palencia even ends up in the top 5 assist leader chart. Not very often you see a defender ends up in the assist chart, especially for LAFC, a team that's not known for seeing their defender being kind of a playmaker, especially even their fullbacks as well being a playmaker. It's kind of surprising to see that Palencia even ends up in the top 5 assist leader chart with 4 assists. Best win of the season. It's got to be the 4-0 win that they had against the Seattle Sounders. So just like what I said with the Sounders moving forward series, where that was like the worst loss for the Sounders because yeah, they just ran into a really good LAFC team and think all things were firing all cylinder. That was kind of the case that day for LAFC. Everything just fired on all cylinder for them, and against a really good Seattle team as well. Definitely considered the best win of the season. I know some people might say, well, what about what they did near the latter part of the season when they went on that winning streak? Well, yes, they did get impressive win during that winning streak. They score a lot of goals during that winning streak, twice beating RSL 4-1, winning 4-2 against the Quakes in one of the game as well. But most of the team that they were facing weren't really considered to be teams that are like in the upper echelon in the Western Conference, and some of the teams they faced weren't even in the playoff hunt. They were already eliminated. So uh, because of that, I mean, I was expecting them to be able to beat lesser opponent, but when you look at this match where they face against Seattle, that was doing very well up to that point of the season and able to smack them like that, and in some way kind of get some revenge compared to what happened early this season when they lost 5-2 in that game. Yeah, I think that was the best win of the season. Now the worst loss of the season. I mean, I was very tempted to go with the 5-2 loss that they had against Seattle, but again, that was just such a good Sounders team, and I probably, you know what, maybe I should have put that 5-2 loss as the worst loss of the season. I think this one. You know what? I'm gonna change that. I know this 2-2 loss that they had. This PK show loss. It hurts because that was the game where they show, of course, some comeback, but unfortunately, they kind of fall short in the end in the PK shootout. So I don't think you can kind of consider that a worse loss this season. So I'm gonna go with the 5-2 loss that they had against Seattle early this season at Lumen Field, and it's kind of odd to see the fact that you have a team that have their best win of the season and their worst loss of the season. It's both against the same opponent. That's just kind of how it works sometimes as well. Now, when we look at average attendance, 21,931, which is good for Knife in the league. LAFC have always said that they sell out their stadium. I don't really believe that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I know LAFC does have pretty good attendance, and for the most part, BMO Stadium is sold out and is pretty full throughout the game. But I definitely know that there's sometimes a lot of empty seats, and because this is an LA team, and one of the stereotype of LA team is that they usually show up late for games, and unfortunately, LAFC is kind of an example of that. I mean, you definitely see that the stands doesn't really get filled up very much in the beginning of the game. It fills up as the game goes along, and I guess again, just a very typical LA kind of sports stereotype, and the fact that that's kind of what happened when you have to stuck in that traffic in LA, and people usually kind of show up late in the game. I mean, I would say it's a stereotype, but I think if you even ask some LA sports fans, they would say that it's not even a stereotype anymore. It's more like a tradition. The fact that we show up late in the game because we're stuck in traffic to get to the event in the first place. Looking at MVP of this team, I'm gonna go with Denis Bawanga, though Sung Hyun Min is definitely a close second in terms of that. And there's no doubt that I am very excited to see what a full season of Sung Hyun Min would do. I mean, what he did coming into the scenes, and really electrify this team. I think he's just gonna get even better heading into next season, and maybe might be the main MVP of this team. But for now, it's got to be Denis Bawanga, who again last season it feels like he kind of had a similar season to the one in 2024 where he kind of started off slow. We kind of question what's going on with Denis Bawanga not scoring goals, but again, as the old saying go, all good striker eventually will pick up their form, and it feels like once Denis Bawanga started to score again, that's when he started to find his touch. When he's finally able to get off the schneid after a slow start, yeah, he's gonna be scoring a ton of goals. I mean, this is a guy that have scored 20 plus goal free straight season. No player has ever done that in MLS history, and I think heading into next season, I won't be surprised if Denis Bouanga starts off slow again. And while that might be concern for LAFC fans, I don't think a lot of people would be concerned the fact that once he does pick things up, he's going to be such a dynamic player going forward, and at times pretty much just carried this team on the attacking end as well. Disappointment. I'm gonna actually go with David Martinez, and the thing about David Martinez, despite the fact that I know he did end up to be one of the top 10 in the 22 under 22, which I was kind of surprised that he actually ended up that high on the list. Not that the fact that he's not an electric player, I do think that he is definitely one of the more electric and one of the high ranked prospect in this league. But last season, I just felt like it was a huge disappointment. The fact that he just didn't look as good and didn't really take a step in terms of his progression. In many ways, I kind of thought that he maybe take a little bit step back in terms of his progression. Yes, he is still a guy that likes to drive at the ball and drive at defender, but at times, he's got to learn the fact that it's not all about just kind of taking on the defenders and taking 1v1. He needs to of course learn to pass the ball and even get himself in good space to score as well, or even show his playmaking ability that he can do. I think that's kind of the next step of his game. Again, as electric as he is, he needs to definitely be mature in terms of how to materialize his skills so that he can fill his potential. And just think last season he just didn't really quite do that. And not to mention he did get in the latter part of the season as well. With that being said, despite him kind of having a little bit of a setback season, I still think he is definitely one of the young players to watch. And I'm actually even going to throw in Nathan Ordaz in there. I know usually I don't like to put two players in the one category, but these two guys are really the guys to watch for LAFC. Especially Nathan Ordaz, a guy that LAFC is not known for developing good young talent, especially from their academy. Nathan Ordaz is really one of the exception. He's really one of the only guy that really come from this LAFC academy, kind of plays for the second team and kind of gone through that grind and still eventually able to get sell a spot in terms of the main team. We have seen before that LAFC has been able to develop some good young talent, but unfortunately, other teams have kind of took advantage of that. A great example is that them used to have Luca Bombino, definitely very talented player with LAFC, but yeah, he moved on to San Diego, and he has played a huge part of San Diego's success as well. So yeah, there's no doubt that this is just another example of a team that I think because of the way how top heavy they are in terms of the core, and this team feels like it's kind of the same reason why I say the Sounders used to not be a team that's known to develop some good young talent until they realize that hey, maybe we might need to look into some of our young talent that academy or academy to look for those young talent to continue this pipeline. Maybe that might be something that we might see LAFC do in the future. Realizing that hey, it's not just about the talent that we bring elsewhere. We maybe need to look within and maybe promote some of our guys from the academy because we all know that the SoCal market it's a hotbed when it comes to soccer. There's so much talent there in the SoCal area. Like California in general should be right up there in terms of being the hottest prospect in terms of soccer players, and there's no reason for LAFC and even the Galaxy in some extent to not capitalize on that. So what went right for this LAFC team? So this team was definitely unstoppable when September began, and a big part of it is that the Song and Bawanga partnership was absolutely deadly. I mean, no team was able to stop him. I even said that you can only hope to contain the deadly partnership between Song and Bawanga. That it feels like those two guys pretty much score and assist on every single goal that LAFC have scored. So what went wrong with this team? So despite the fact that they were definitely heading into the playoff hot, and I always mention whenever a team heads to the playoff hot, that usually means that that team might have a chance to go to MLS Cup. Well, that would be the case if they didn't run into the Vancouver Whitecaps, who was an absolute juggernaut and a team that definitely have revenge in mind against LAFC. But again, even in that game, I will give LAFC a lot of credit to the fact that they fought really hard in that one, and that if it wasn't for the PK shootout, they probably would have once again continued to have their dominance over the Vancouver Whitecaps. And people also forget that the other thing that kind of went wrong with this team is the fact that inconsistency was actually a bit of a problem early in the season. So early in the season, what we saw LAFC did in September, that was not kind of the case early in the season. They weren't having some inconsistency problem and even goal scoring problem as well. It's hard to believe for a team that ended up scoring 65 goals that they kind of had that issue in the beginning of the season, and that was kind of the case. It feels like Steve Cherno hit the model that he's trying to do just doesn't seem like it work out, or other teams kind of figure things out. But once the high talent begins to happen, and also not to mention bring a South Korean superstar like Sung Hyun Min to your team will definitely helps solve a lot of the inconsistency on the attack, and make the attack instantly such a deadly weapon as we saw in the latter part of the season. And then of course, as good as the season is for this team, once again, there's just no silverware to show for. And as I said in the beginning of the video, as much as I know LAFC fans feel like heading into next season, with the way that this team seems like they're gonna just run it back with the same talent and have a chance to get some silverware, there is that pressure that I think eventually you will have to show that you have the ability to get some silverware. One of the things I've always say about LAFC, and this has been a narrative that I know LAFC fans are probably tired of me bring it up, and in some extent they feel like this narrative should have been defeated again when they won that U.S. Open Cup against Sporting KC to grab their second silverware. Well, actually, no, it's not their second silver; it's their fourth silverware because they won the Supporters Shield twice, and also the ultimate price of MLS Cup back in 2022. But it just kind of also feel like with the way that this team is and how good they have been ever since they came to the league, the fact that I kind of feel like they probably should win more than just the four silverware that they have, and especially last season with how good of a season it is, and yet still no silverware to show for. I mean, it's getting to a point where this is a team that is among the upper echelon in the league, of the fact that if they don't win a silverware, it's kind of almost feels like it's a bit of a failure of a season because of all the talent that you have and no silverware where to show for. I think that's where I think next season has got to be the expectation. They need to at least get some silverware. Though obviously that's not going to be easy to do because again, as much as they have all this talent on their team, the elephant in the room as we talk about moving forward is Marc Dos Santos. And Marc Dos Santos, I've said this before, the fact that really the only thing he needs to do coming in, and the thing that he simply just cannot afford to do, is just try to mangle the team too much and basically change the flow of the team. That is, I think, is something that I think LAFC fans are fearing that he could do, and kind of mess up the good foundation that Cherundolo built to this team, and especially when he decided to implement his system like he did with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Yeah, that didn't work out so well, and this is also the reason why I think he would be under the hot seat immediately taking charge of this team. He wasn't really a very popular hiring when he was promoted as the new head coach. But then again, the same we can say it about Steve Toronto as well. He wasn't a very popular hiring when he was signed from the Las Vegas Lights, which is a team that back then was dead last in the USL Championship. But eventually, of course, it worked out. So we'll see whether or not, if of course it might be the same case again, and if it's not the same case, wouldn't be surprised if Marc Dos Santos might be let go this team relatively quick. And then of course, they did add some depth in their team. So some of the depth signing they had include Tyler Boyd and Jacob Schaffelberg. Though Schaffelberg obviously won't be available at least in the early part of the season because of injury. So I do like the fact that they did add some more depth, and they also signed Shrinier to a permanent deal as well. So that booster the midfield as well. I think defensive depth is kind of an area that they might need to add if they want to really go too deep and basically roll in most of the competition that they have. So that might be something that they might still look for the remaining of the offseason. But one thing that was kind of intriguing to see in terms of what they need to do this offseason is the fact that will they maybe wait until the summer again to get another big name player, either a designated player or a young DP or a U22 initiative signing done over the line. Well, it turns out that they're not going to wait till the summer. As I said earlier in the news of the week episode, they are looking to sign this guy. I think his name is Amin Boldry. That is this Swedish U21 international, a guy that done very well in the Swedish league, was one of the more electric player in the Swedish league, and it seems like they're gonna sign him as a U22 initiative. So yeah, they're gonna they'll probably use that on him, and we'll see how he, of course, will do now that he potentially could join this team, and it's definitely an interesting move. I mean, I know that they were going to probably spend big in terms of the investment in terms of the last premium spot that they had. But we'll see whether or not if this Swedish guy that they are not officially signed yet. I mean, I say that it's like they signed the player. They're pretty close in terms of getting this deal done, but we'll see what kind of dynamic he can add. In terms of what already is a very deadly attack. Again, this team I think is going to be considered to be one of the top three team in the West, and a team that, again, for most season, I always say that LAFC is a contender in the West because when you look at this roster, it's pretty loaded from top to bottom, and it really only takes a team that maybe have a bit of an injury crisis, or the fact that Marc Dos Santos decided to go back to his Vancouver Whitecaps day and really screwing the team up with his tactics in this team. I just don't see this team to be considered to be a team anywhere close to be fighting for playoff position. Like that would be the worst case scenario for this team. I think this team is definitely going to be a top team, and once again is going to be gunning for MLS Cup next season. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're an LAFC fan, what do you think is the MVP, disappointment, young player to watch, what went right, what went wrong, and most importantly, moving forward, how is this team going to look heading into next season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.